You know what's funny? People say, by real estate they're not making more land. And then they buy a condo with paper-thin walls, no sunlight, and think, investment. Now don't get me wrong. Real estate can be brilliant, but only if you understand one thing. It's not just about property, it's about permanence. Let me explain. I grew up hearing this phrase all the time. If you want to be rich for a year, trade. If you want to be rich for a decade, start a business. But if you want to be rich forever, buy land. Now, did we come up with that? Maybe not, but we repeated it like it was written in the Talmud itself, passed around like a family recipe for wisdom from grandfather to grandson. And maybe that's because in Jewish tradition, land has a kind of sacred permanence, not just spiritually but economically, practically, emotionally even. And it starts with one very Jewish idea. Ownership is not just profit, it's protection. You see, for centuries, Jews weren't allowed to own land in many countries. So, we learned to work around it. We became merchants, bankers, tailors, anything that fit in a suitcase. But deep down, we always knew the power of real estate. Not for status, but for survival. Imagine this, a farmer owns his land. A banker owns his bank account. Now, imagine, there's chaos. War. Currency collapse. Borders change. Guess who still has something? The one with the land. Because land doesn't disappear overnight. It doesn't get hacked. It doesn't vanish with inflation. It doesn't go to zero because someone tweeted the wrong emoji. In Hebrew, the word for land is eretz. It doesn't just mean dirt. It means identity. Place. Foundation. And let's be honest, what's more foundational than a home? So no, buying property isn't just investing. It's anchoring yourself and your family to something real. But here's where most people mess up. They buy property like it's a lottery ticket. This neighborhood is going up. This developer has a hot tip. My cousin's friend flipped a house and now drives a Tesla. Okay, calm down. Real estate is not exciting. It's boring, predictable, long-term. Like a brisket in the oven, don't open the door every 10 minutes. You'll ruin it. Jewish wealth isn't loud. It's quiet, conservative. You don't hear the guy bragging. You see his name on the building 30 years later. Let me tell you a story. There's this man, let's call him Moshe. In the 1960s, he bought a small storefront in a dull part of town. Everyone said, "Why here? It's empty." He shrugged, rented it to a bakery. A simple one. Smelled like fresh challah and patience. 10 years later, that bakery became famous. A line out the door every morning. The block got trendy. Rents went up. So, did property values. But Moshe, he didn't sell. He bought the next building. And the next. And while others were chasing gold rushes, he was planting seeds. Quietly. 50 years later, his grandchildren don't have to work. Not because he was a genius, but because he understood the game. Buy boring. Wait long. Stay quiet. That's it. Now, here's the second piece of Jewish logic. It's not just what you buy. It's how you buy it. Let me ask you, when most people buy real estate, what do they think about? Price, location, style, how many bathrooms? But here's what smart investors think about: cash flow, debt structure, tax advantages. Control. See, we don't just buy things to show off. We buy things that pay us back. A rental unit that brings in steady income? That's not just a property, it's a partner. A partner that doesn't complain, doesn't take vacations, and doesn't need health insurance. You know what we call that? A mensch. And the best part, you can pass it down. Stocks go up and down. Cash loses value with inflation. But property? If bought right, it just keeps giving. Like a good uncle at Hanukkah, quiet, dependable, shows up every year. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying real estate is perfect. There are bad tenants, leaky roofs, property taxes. Believe me, I once spent a Passover weekend unclogging a drain in a unit I owned. Not exactly the Red Sea, but it felt just as dramatic. Still, the problems are solvable. The asset is real. And more importantly, it teaches you discipline. Which brings me to the third big idea. Real estate builds character before it builds wealth. You can't panic sell a house at 2 a.m. You can't flip out because Zillow says it dropped $5,000 overnight. Real estate forces you to think long-term. It makes you ask, what will this neighborhood look like in 10 years? What kind of life will my children have if I hold on to this? That kind of thinking. That's Jewish. Delayed gratification. Building for the next generation. Sacrificing a little today for something stable tomorrow. There's even a concept in Jewish law called Yerusha, inheritance. It's not just about money. It's about legacy. Continuity. You don't just leave your children cash. You leave them roots. And what better root than land? When you own property, You're not just a tenant of the world anymore. You become a caretaker of a corner of it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but real estate is expensive. I can't afford a whole house. I live in a showbox, and my rent is higher than my self-esteem. I hear you. Believe me. But here's the trick. You don't have to start big. You just have to start smart. Ever heard of REITs? Real estate investment trusts. They let you invest in property the same way you buy a stock. Not as sexy as owning a mansion in Miami, but a lot more practical. And you don't have to fix a single toilet or partner with someone. 2 people, 1 property, shared risk, shared reward. The Jewish community? We've done that forever. Groups of families pooling money, buying buildings together. It's not about ego. It's about access. And you can even start with land outside the city. Buy a plot near a developing area. No house yet. Doesn't matter. Land appreciates quietly. And finally, don't rush. Good deals aren't obvious. They're invisible to people who are looking for fast money. But if you're looking for forever money, you'll learn to spot them. Like a hidden gem on a cluttered street, or a dusty old book that changes your life. Real estate is like Torah study. You don't get it all in one sitting. You read, you wait, you let it sink in, and suddenly things click. That's when you understand why the quiet man with the plain suit owns half the block, while the guy shouting on Instagram is still renting. Let me wrap this up with one last idea. Owning land gives you options, and options give you freedom. You don't have to sell your soul for a paycheck. You don't have to beg for a raise. You don't have to fear every economic storm, because the land is there. Still earning, still appreciating, still standing. You know, my grandfather used to say, the stock market is a roller coaster, but real estate, it's a staircase. It may be slow, but every step is yours. And that, my friend, is the hidden Jewish logic behind real estate. It's not about hype. It's not about flipping. It's about anchoring. Building, belonging. So next time you hear someone say, real estate is too slow, just smile. And remember, the slow path is the one that lasts. If this made sense to you and you want me to break down other parts of this topic, like how to spot a good deal, avoid real estate traps, or build your first partnership, I'd be happy to do another video. But for now, breathe, think long term, and remember, you don't need to own a palace. You just need to own a piece of peace.